So, what is entrepreneurial energetics? Entrepreneurial energetics is the art and skill of using leverage and financial literacy. Money is really just a tool and it's an energy. And the best and most skilled entrepreneurs use the tool of money to free up their time to do whatever they want. So, really, entrepreneurial energetics in its most simplest form is learning the art and skill of leverage. And it really comes down to actually leveraging your energy, not so much leveraging your money, definitely leveraging your time, but it's really leveraging your energy and the energetics inside your business. So, the wealthiest people in the world don't work for money, they make money work for them. This is one of the most fundamental aspects of entrepreneurial energetics. Okay. Most of us just accept the way life is. We accept that we have a government that, prints trillions of dollars and basically just gives that away to other countries. It borrows huge amounts of money and uses your tax dollars to pay off the debt that they're constantly incurring and increasing. So this is why trading your time for money is a really it's a really tough place to be in because we're not able to leverage anything other than like our income on debt. So what I mean by that is like, even if you work a high paying job, like the and you have but you have to spend a lot of time in that job making money, you really don't have a lot of leverage except for what you can show the bank that you earn on income and borrow against that. A great example of this, of what I mean, is like a mortgage, right? A mortgage is not debt on your house. It's really a leveraged security against your income. And so the amount that you can qualify for a loan or a mortgage is dependent on how much money you make on your income. So this is why I say that a mortgage is really leverage against your income. And your income is usually typically capped at how many hours you can work in a day. So when we look into entrepreneurial energetics, it's all about how we can leverage our time and our effort more effectively. Finance has its whole own entire language. That's why skilled entrepreneurs refer to the language of finance as financial literacy. One of the most fundamental aspects of financial literacy is the difference between assets and liabilities. Okay. Assets and liabilities are two aspects of what is referred to as a balance sheet. Without getting too complicated, because if you get into balance sheets and accounting, it can actually get really confusing really fast for a lot of people. And it's really just a simple concept, but it's overly complicated. People tend to overcomplicate this concept. And I personally believe that it's deliberately overcomplicated by our school system to keep people in this thought pattern of thinking that this is a complicated subject. And this is one of the tactics that keeps people dependent on their jobs and keeps people basically enslaved to their paycheck. The school system does not teach financial literacy. The school system does not teach empowerment through energetic systems. And really, your business, you yourself, your products, and money itself, they're all just a form of energy. And everything in the entire universe is energy. All of the best entrepreneurs in the history of our planet know and understand this concept deeply, and they live by it. This is why the wealthiest people on the planet don't work for money, because literally the government just prints it. So why work for something that the government can just literally create out of thin air? And the more that is created out of thin air, the less purchasing power the dollars that you do have from your earned income at a job trading time for money have. There's less purchasing power available due to inflation, right? Like if you're making a certain amount of money per hour and the price of food is going up by 20%, you have less money to spend on other things outside of necessities. And this is a really disempowering and really predatory practice used by the people who control the money supply to keep people dependent on their income. Because as inflation rises and our wages generally stay the same, over the last like decade, you can look at statistics showing how much wages have risen versus the cost of living. And it's quite unbalanced. Okay. The cost of living has gone up by like 100% over the last 20 years, and wages have gone up by like 20%. So if you're trading time for money, you're in a very unleverageable position. It's very difficult to get to the next level in that type of environment. And of course, there's exceptions to this. And of course, I've shared a lot of vulnerability around my current predicament around my finances. And realistically, I own like $2 million in real estate. With that $2 million, I'm a little bit over leveraged. Okay. So I have not created enough cash flow to support the amount of leverage that I have incurred, the amount of debt that I've taken on to finance those assets. So we're going to get into a little bit of assets and liabilities here, because this is a really, really common misconception that I see constantly with people. And this isn't one of my ideas. This is just a simple accounting concept. And the simplification of it that I'm going to go through is really popularized by an author named Robert Kiyosaki, a very famous real estate investor, very, very high skilled entrepreneur, very knowledgeable business mentor. And I've literally I've been studying Robert Kiyosaki's work for 5 or 6 years now, and it's really changed my life, because this shift that I'm about to explain, it's very simple yet profound in how it is actually delivered and how it switches your mindset. So assets and liabilities, right? The biggest misconception that people have with assets and liabilities is they think that because they own what they refer to as an asset, right? The most common example of this would be the house that you live in. The majority of Americans' wealth are tied up in real estate, and the majority of Americans, the majority of their wealth is their primary residence. Okay. They have actual liquidity, they have equity, they have access to capital through their primary residence. Now, with that being said, just because you own your house, it does not make it an asset. In fact, it is actually the opposite, because because you, with a typical mortgage, right, on a house, a 30-year fixed rate, even if you have a good interest rate on the house, it is still a liability because at the end of the day, the you are liable for the mortgage payment. And if you miss like 2 or 3 of them, right, all it takes is 60 to 90 days, and the bank comes in and seizes the property. Okay. And so the misconception here is that people call their house an asset simply because if they sell it, they will get money. Okay. But that's not actually what makes it an asset. Assets and liabilities refers to monthly cash flow, not a capital gains taxable event. Okay. So what I mean with that is like if you sell your house, your primary residence, you do get the equity that you have out. Okay. You get that lump sum of cash, but that doesn't make it an asset. Just because you have a lump sum of cash invested in a business or a property or what people refer to as an asset class does not make it an asset. It's only an asset if it's putting money in your pocket without working. Okay. Now, when the bank calls your home an asset, they are not wrong because it is an asset for the bank. The bank is making monthly cash flow, positive monthly cash flow, meaning that the money that they gave you to finance your house is costing them a certain amount every month. And you are paying them an added premium to what that costs. So for the bank, your house is an asset. However, for you, especially if you own your house, it is a liability because you are liable for the payment. And the payment keeps coming every month, no matter how much you make. So this is a really, really big misconception in just like the finance and entrepreneurial world that I constantly hear, even with fairly high level entrepreneurs. And this is something that I made the mistake of for a long time. For a long time, I have been a slave to my businesses. Okay. And I mentioned that I'm over leveraged. If you've been following my channel, you know that I've been struggling with money. You know that I've been struggling with cash flow. And it's because not only am I over leveraged, but I'm working to do something very difficult here in that I have no job. I'm literally funding all of this debt out of my own pocket, and I'm doing it without working. So this is the really big misconception is that like I have a huge opportunity here. I have an extra building that I built, an extra piece of real estate that I developed that I'm working on turning into an asset. But as it stands right now, it is a liability because I am actually having to work extra hours and take money out of my pocket to fund this investment. So the cash flow out of this property, it's actually not negative, but it's it's so neutralized that it's basically negative. I mean, now with that being said, I do have an opportunity I'll just go ahead and say it. I built this 2,500 square foot barn on an investment property that I own. Okay. So I have tenants living in the house and I created a lease agreement for these tenants. They're paying me the mortgage plus a couple $100s a month. And really, it actually would be a cash flow positive, a very good cash flow positive situation. However, the mortgage company is doing this whole escrow adjustment. So I'm having to pay an extra $600 a month on my mortgage to make up the difference in the negative escrow balance that the mortgage company is showing. If you want to learn more about this, that's really not what this transmission is about. But it's just a little bit more share and honesty about what's going on with me so that you understand that, this guy who's struggling with money, who owns all this real estate, isn't like full of shit. And I understand that I over leveraged myself. I understand a lot of the mistakes that I made, and it's really been a challenge to fix them. And that's why I am so dedicated to bringing this information forth, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I've made. Okay? You don't need to make these mistakes. You don't need to over leverage yourself. You don't need to buy a piece of residential real estate, live there, and think that it's an asset and make a mistake. That's how we get ourselves into an over leveraged position, is by making the mistake of thinking that just because we own this house and that we have equity in it and that if we sell it we get money, that it's an asset. Assets and liabilities refers to cash flow from an accounting standpoint. So now, just to go back to what I was saying about working monthly income and leveraging that, right? A big part of like the foundational aspects of entrepreneurial energetics is meditation. Okay, I know that seems and sounds like it's kind of out of left field and sounds maybe a little bit strange for me talking about business and finance. But as I mentioned before, everything is energy. And a lot of entrepreneurs that I come across, and I know for sure I have been super guilty of this, is that we get so overwhelmed with our to-do list and all these different things that we're managing: cash flow, people, products, sales, just like production, whatever it is. There are so many things that entrepreneurs have to deal with on a daily basis that it can feel like spending time cultivating your energy and through meditation is a waste of time. But as I mentioned before, the school system is set up in a way that we ignore these really fundamental aspects of reality. And as I mentioned before, the best entrepreneurs on the planet only focused on their energetics. They only focused on their energy. They only focused on finance in terms of an energy. And when we are stuck in this position of being at a practically fixed income with the cost of everything in our lives constantly rising and taxation on top of that, it's very easy to get stuck in this fight or flight mechanism of frustration. And really, like frustration, this frustration I'm speaking to is a stress response. It's a hormonal stress response that's induced by our body. And it is the way that our culture and society is set up. It's purposely set up this way. It's intentionally, like our school system and our compensation system, our tax system is intentionally set up in a way that keeps people in this stuck low vibration. And what is the vibration that I'm speaking of? It's fear. all these types of easy triggers like finances. The reason why they're so easy is because they activate the fear response. They activate our fear mechanisms. They activate the fight or flight response to what we perceive as a threat or danger in our perceptual reality, in our experience. Because of the liabilities that we have committed ourselves to, whether that be our car payments, our mortgages, credit card bills, cell phone, electric, utility, whatever those triggers are that activate the fear response and the fear mechanism, they really start and get us in the fight or flight mechanism. And when we're in fight or flight, the only thing that our mind is concerned with is escaping the danger. It's not a time to create. It's a time to run and hide because that's how we've evolved. Evolutionarily, the fight or flight response mechanism has been pivotal to our survival on the planet. If there's you know, a tiger or a bear running after you, the fight or flight response mechanism is incredibly helpful. However, most of us are constantly stuck in fight or flight, whether that be in traffic or, we're with our boss or our mother-in-law, sister-in-law, whoever it is that's triggering, or whatever stimulus in your environment that is triggering that fight or flight mechanism is keeping you in a state of fear. And when we're in fear, we cannot create anything. We're all we can do is focus on the problem and run and hide from it, whether that be fight or flight, right? We can and like the fight response would be getting angry and frustrated and pissed off. Shit, I know I've been there. I've been there a lot in the last 6 months, feeling angry, feeling frustrated and pissed off, and wondering why I did this to myself, and focusing on the problem. And so in entrepreneurial energetics, and to be a high leveled entrepreneur, it is vital and pivotal. It is crucial that we use meditation to activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest nervous system, because that is the only time our body can heal, and that is the only time our body can create. It's the only time we can connect to our divinity. And through that, that's how we're going to create abundance. That's how we're going to create prosperity. That is the place that we are going to be able to thrive from. And honestly, all it takes is literally just taking your mind and attention off of the problems and off of even your entire physical reality, your entire physical body. Just let go and surrender. And honestly, don't even worry about it. And so the counterintuitive thing that I'm speaking of here, and this is going to sound weird, right? Prepare for this, because really what I'm suggesting is that the best way to solve your problems is to ignore them. And this is the skill and the art of entrepreneurial energetics. Wherever you place your attention, or I'm sorry, with intention is attention. And wherever you place your attention is where you place your energy. That's a quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay. He does a great job of explaining of like how to create from this place of what he refers to as the field. I call it the matrix, like our energetic matrix, not the matrix referring to like the computer simulation or the programs that we operate in, but the creative matrix, the energetic matrix. So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And if you're placing your attention on your problems, you are focusing your energy on creating your problems. And so this is where I say you need to literally take your attention off of the problem and ignore your problems, which sounds highly irresponsible. I mean, most people would probably argue that that is the worst way to solve your problems, but look at where most people are. Do they have the results that you want? I don't have the results that I want, but I do have some of the results. And I have a lot more results than a lot of people. So this is where meditation is so crucial and fundamental and so important that we are tapped in, because when we are grounded in our being and feeling safe, and we're not worried about the mechanisms of survival, whether that be food, water, shelter, um, rest, sunlight, whatever security or comfort that you are, that is triggering your fear response, right? Whatever that is, it's vital that we connect to security and we connect to safety and we connect to this sensation of feeling held and supported by the earth, because shit, I forgot where we're going. Feeling held and supported by the earth, because when we are able to let go of that security, when we feel secure and safe in our reality, we actually can trust what's what we're creating. We can trust our intuition. We can trust ourselves. We can trust our decisions. We can trust the divine will. We can trust that actually the divine will of God, if you want, prime source, whatever. I don't really care what you call it. We can trust that that divine being beyond ourselves is actually bringing us our prosperity. Money is an energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So all of the money that you want exists in your vibrational field. And all you have to do is align yourself with that vibrational reality, and all that money is yours. But you have to tap in to your vibrational self. There's a law of there's a law that comes before the law of attraction. There's several laws, universal laws. Okay. The universe does operate through a systematic process of order. It's not chaotic, it's an entropy, organized chaos. Entropy is organized chaos, but there's a pattern and a specific set of laws that the universe does operate on. And one of the first ones, it's actually the second one. The first one is the universe is mental. It exists in your mind. Okay. So as you think, you create. The second law is the law of vibration. The entire universe is vibrational. Science even actually validates that. Max Planck discovered black body radiation, right? Even if you like science, if you look at our whole world, right? Everything on planet Earth exists in the visible light spectrum. And if you look at the spectrum of radiation, right? All the different frequencies and vibrations of creation exist from like, radio waves to gamma, ultraviolet waves, right? And the visible light spectrum is this like tiny little sliver that we can see, right? So even science is saying that even things like stars, galaxies, moons, black holes, planets, people are just vibrations on this spectrum. So energy can neither be created nor destroyed. All of your wealth, prosperity, and abundance exists in your vibrational field. And you need to take your attention and mind off of physical reality, because physical reality is not the whole picture. It's not everything in existence. It is a sliver of this experience. But if you aren't aware of this vibrational reality, then it doesn't exist. So, by literally ignoring our problems, we can actually create more of what we want by letting go and detaching from our problems, from the stories around our problems. This is a very hard thing to do because we are so programmed into the stories that we tell ourselves. And I'm a victim of this as well. I'm not even a victim. I am guilty of this because the second I see someone and they start asking me about, how I'm relating to things, it's so easy for me to drop into the stories that I've been telling myself. And that's why it's so important for me to come on here. I am just breaking these stories. All right. That's what these transmissions are about for me right now. I understand that I'm not fully there and I have not fully manifested my potential vibrational reality yet. But I'm speaking into them because I'm creating them right now in front of you. Because I want to be living proof that this works. I don't want it just to be theoretical. And I see so many entrepreneurs. I see all these wealth coaches, right? Entrepreneur coach or, lifestyle coaches, life coaches. And they talk about some of these concepts, but a lot of them have only made their money teaching you how to make money. I've made millions of dollars in my businesses. I've owned millions of dollars of real estate. I've made some mistakes in my investments and I developed a piece of real estate that cost me $350,000 and I over leveraged myself on it and I haven't made cash flow on it. So it's not an asset yet. It's still a liability. I'm working that out. But I tell you this because I want to connect with your story. I want to connect with who you are. I want to connect with you in this way that doesn't feel disconnected. It doesn't feel, I'm not some barista who started talking about these things in theory that like became popular because it sounded sexy. I'm a living example of this working. I've used these concepts to generate wealth and I've lost some of it. I mean, You want to talk about mistakes? I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, like straight up, just pissed it away. It's like, oh, there goes 100 grand. There goes another 100 grand. Shit. Fuck. How do I make my rent now? How do I make these liabilities? How do I make this mortgage? How do I pay my employees? How do I pay all these liabilities? Fuck. I only have a certain amount coming in, and I'm supposed to make, like, I'm liable for double that. What do I do? Let's go back to our vibrational reality and create from there. Money is energy. Energy can either be created or destroyed. All the money that you desire, that you are worthy of, and you deserve exists in your vibrational field. Let's do this together.